Hello, hello, greetings. Welcome to United States of Africa channel. This is Daniel Mombono, and today I'm going to talk about the need of Africans to emancipate themselves from mental enslavement, because the moment we liberate our minds, that is the time that Africa will begin to see progress. We have a lot of natural resources in spite of the ongoing colonial exploitation of Africa. We still have so much at our disposal. We have so many natural resources. We have a lot of talented young people, and yet we have been complaining that we are being oppressed, uh, and we are not even taking action to ensure that we begin to benefit from our own potential, the remaining potential that we have after the exploitation of Africa. We need to hold ourselves accountable so that we can move forward this vision for United States of Africa, and this can be attained if we begin supporting United States of Africa projects and the realization of a physical office for United States of Africa, because without a physical office, it's going to be very difficult to convince people Africa can unite. We need to have a permanent office in any of the African countries so that the world knows that this project exists, and we are really determined to unify Africa and to ensure that we do this for the good of Africa and for the coming generation. We really have to work towards economic unification of Africa, the technological unification, and we need to embrace Pan-African solidarity in solving our own problems. We cannot be just going to complain that we have a lot of debts, yet these African leaders are the ones who have been rushing to have been have been rushing to apply for these loans, and most of these loans just go into infrastructure. They do not go to the to people's development. We are not seeing industries being established utilizing these loans that are being given, because they're not given for development of industries. This is what we need in Africa, so that we can exploit on natural resources and utilize them for our own development. Roads benefit only a few people who can afford to buy cars. They can afford the luxury of traveling every time. But there are people whose means of transport is just walking on foot. So these people, if you build roads to them, you have not empowered them. We need to focus on empowering people in agriculture sector, ensuring that the farmers are able to produce enough food for their families, and produce enough food that they can be able to sell to neighbors and even export the excess of what we have to foreign countries. If we begin creating our own capabilities, then I believe that we are going to create an independent African nation which does not rely on aid. We also need to empower the young generation, and by empowering young generation through their talents, we are going to begin to see Africa develop, because there is no African nation that can develop if it does not invest in the young people, investing in children, ensuring that the children get access to education, the children are protected, and they also get access to healthcare. This is very important in ensuring that we have a prosperous African nation and a stable nation that would have secured its generation. we need to ensure that our young people our young people empower themselves instead of waiting for jobs from waiting for these big guys to leave out of office. We need to create our own potentials to come together so that we start creating these jobs that we have been studying for more than 16 years, waiting to get jobs. Uh, this kind of education that Africa has been receiving has helped in creating the unemployment crisis because people just go to the universities with that mindset that they are going to be employed, but these universities not teach us who these employers are going to be. We need to create more employers than employees. And if we are going to do that, then we are going to eliminate the job crisis in Africa. And by doing that, we are going to create a new generation of business owners, farmers, people who own industries. These are the people that we need in Africa because having so many people who are just relying on job opportunities is not going to help Africa. Thank you. I think it's Moridiva from YouTube commenting, stay blessed and protected. There's also somebody asking about the good news, any good news within Africa. There's a lot of good news in Africa, but it depends on which angle you are looking at. In spite of the challenges that we are facing in Africa, we still have a lot to offer to the world, and therefore, if we change our mindset and begin to think positively, we are going to definitely transform Africa. But the more we indulge ourselves in negative thinking, we'll have very little chances of bringing any meaningful change. We don't have to keep on behaving like the oppositions and these people in the ruling party, what they do, the kind of politics. We need to focus on exactly what Africa needs and begin solving the problems. For example, if your leader does something good, it's advisable that you recognize his efforts, however little, and this positivity that is going to drive Africa forward, and not just a lame negative criticism, but you're not offering alternatives. When you are criticizing your leader, you also need to criticize yourself because you are responsible for his election or for her election. We need to be very responsible in electing our leaders. And because of the high level of mental enslavement, this is why Africa never elects good leaders. And these good leaders are seen as people who are not giving handouts, and therefore they don't deserve to be elected. And that explains why so many brilliant leaders never make it on the ballot day. They just get eliminated because they didn't give out some handouts. And this kind of culture is what has led Africa to have leadership crisis. We are having people who are wreaking havoc in Africa, and they appear not to understand that an African is supposed to be in a position of power and not just to be in a position where we are begging for everything, including things that we already have. And as long as we continue begging for things that we have, Africa will never be prosperous and will never attain any form of development. So we need to really wake up. Let us study our history, know where we came from. If we get to know our roots and get to know where we came from, then definitely we'll never despise ourselves. We will be proud of our identity, and you'll not see any African bleaching himself or herself just because they feel intimidated by whiteness, and they have come to believe that being black is a sign of devil, or being inferior. Blackness is not the sign of the devil, and the definition of blackness has to be changed, because from the beginning, blackness has never been a sign of devil, and the so-called white folks say that the angel was white and the devil was black, and that is where racism began, because they look at black people, even if they have not committed any crime, but just by the color they say this person is a criminal, and they call cops on you, and when the police come, they don't even check whether you're innocent or not. When the moment they see you're black, they just shoot and kill you. And this is what has been happening in America. And this is why Africa has mobilized countries in the United Nations to discuss about police brutality in America, and systematic racism against people of African descent, because racism has become so widespread, such that even Africans are afraid to go to America, because they are fearing for their lives. Even that kind of mad rush for the US visa has now come down, because there's no African who wants to go to America because of systematic police brutality and racism. And in fact, we have been calling on brothers and sisters in the United States to consider relocating to Africa, so that we can rebuild Africa, and so that they can live at peace, because here in Africa, though we have our own challenges, there is no racism, because we are the ones at home, and Africa is our homeland. So therefore, we control everything. In spite of the fact that we don't have much control over natural resources, we still have land, and we need to work together to ensure that we completely liberate Africa, and ensure the natural resources benefit us, and the descendants of Africa are protected. And this is the time for us to renew the calls for Marcus Garvey for global Black unity, because without global Black unity, we are going to be continuously oppressed. The United States of Africa demands the immediate release of all the political prisoners that Indonesia is still holding after several activism campaigns. Indonesia reduced the sentences, but still that is not enough. We demand that these activists be released, because they are only arrested because they are fighting against racism. And I believe that they have the rights to confront any racist challenges. It's their human rights to fight against racism, and no one should be imprisoned for fighting against racism, because this is a global crisis. It's a global pandemic, and in fact, Indonesia needs to apologize to Africa for mistreating our brothers and sisters, and Indonesia needs to leave West Papua as soon as possible, so that West Papuans can have the right to govern themselves as free nation. Indonesia and West Papua were colonized by the Dutch at the same time, but while Indonesia got independence in 1945, West Papua, or the island of New Guinea, got its independence in 1961, and shortly after, Indonesia invaded West Papua, and this was just like the Berlin Conference. West Papuans were not consulted. It was just an invasion, and only 1,000 and 1,025 people out of the population of 800,000 people were allowed to vote. So which means that this act of free choice that was organized by the United Nations was illegal, and it was also in contravention of the international law. So now that United Nations has started this discussion about racism, this is the right time for United Nations to correct its mistakes in West Papua and grant the people of West Papua the right to self-determination because they have the right to be free. There is no nation that has a right to colonize another. Let me see if there are any comments. Is hello from Massa. And then we have someone from South Africa. Good day from South Africa. For those who want to get involved in United States of Africa project, you can contact us via WhatsApp. And if you also want to get involved in upcoming programs, you can also get in touch because we need a lot of volunteers, those people in the media industries. If you're an artist, you're a comedian, we need these people to come on board so that we can come up with creative programs. And also, if you're an educator and you have a program where you can provide digital education to Africans, then you can as well contact us so that we can utilize this platform for the benefit of Africans and to ensure that we provide education to the African child who is stranded home because of the coronavirus pandemic. I believe that by utilizing the technology, we'll be able to provide the kind of education that the people of Africa need, and at the same time, be able to provide solutions to different challenges that people of African descent are facing around the world. Once again, Global Pan Africanism Network expresses solidarity with West Papuan liberation movements. We also express solidarity with the West Papuan activists who are fighting for the right for self-determination. And we demand that Indonesia releases all political prisoners that they're still holding up. Even as the pandemic hits, there has been discrimination. While they have released the Indonesian political prisoners, they have not released the West Papuan political prisoners just because they are black. So this kind of discrimination against black people in West Papua must come to an end. And we say enough is enough. Indonesia must respect the rights of the indigenous people to govern themselves, and therefore we demand that the United Nations hears the plight of West Papua and they grant them the right to self-determination. Looking forward uh, to holding another program where we're going to engage with other guests and discuss more issues on how we can promote Pan-Africanism. As Daniel Likita, greetings to all my great people. Let us keep on the pursuit for unity and greatness, United States of Africa. Thanks for all those who have commented. Keep on sharing the live broadcast and also keep on spreading the word and inviting more people to follow United States of Africa. And at the same time, we should encourage your friends and relatives to take action to support United States of Africa vision I believe by supporting United States of Africa, we are going to create a stable African nation that will be self-reliant and a nation that people of African descent have been waiting for. Long live United States of Africa. From Nairobi, I say goodbye and have a great day.